Hello, everyone. Welcome to CMO Therapy. My name is Lucy Heavens, and this is a podcast that's hopefully going to help you to navigate your way through your marketing journey. Because let me tell you, I get it. Being a marketing leader is no walk in the park. In each episode, we are going to dive headfirst into the world of marketing, where uncertainty, tight budgets, and fierce competition are just the beginning of the rollercoaster ride. But guess what? You are not alone in this. Why go solo when you can tap into the powerhouse of insights from some of the most awesome marketing leaders in the game? And look, the title might include the word therapy, but we are not just talking about challenges here. We are tackling them head on. So join us as we deep dive into the nitty-gritty, share war stories, and unlock secret strategies. And get ready for no holds barred conversations, because sometimes I have no filter. So if you are a chief marketing officer, a marketing lead, or someone just looking to up their marketing game, then I am so glad that you are here with us today. And today I am very, very happy to have with us the very amazing Nicola Harley. Nicola, would you like to give a quick intro?
Thanks for having me along, Lucy. I'm really honoured to be here. So Lucy and I have known each other for decades, actually. I'm head of content, head of global content and strategy and platforms at Morningstar. I've been with Morningstar now the past 13 years, which has flown by. And prior to that, I worked in tech, original fintech, for a global IT provider with asset managers and wealth managers, and then before that, mainly technology. So I would say I'm a career marketer. I've always worked in B2B and predominantly tech, fintech, and now I would say more investment research. We do have software, we do have lots of other things, but I'm mainly, I would say, fintech background.
Yeah, like me, I always say I have fintech running through my veins.
Absolutely.
So the title of this podcast is Intrapreneurial Instincts in Big Marketing Teams. And where this came from is we had a conversation, didn't we, about working in large companies. We talk about this actually quite often, don't we? Working in large companies, big marketing teams. It offers lots of benefits. So you have your kind of structured career paths. You've got your kind of really sort of specialized like niche roles, more defined kind of salary banding and that sort of thing. But there's also the other side of sort of some of the challenges. I remember this working for a big company as well. Long approval, rigid processes, like kind of less visibility. And I loved what you said when we chatted about needing to have this very entrepreneurial mindset to build relationships across the organization, to navigate so many different roles and who does what, who's responsible for what, and obviously not stepping on toes, and really try and like carve your place out for the team. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. That's what we're going to be unpacking. So like I said, the working in teams does have those kind of perks, like your bigger budgets, maybe your resources, career growth. Also the challenges, but I'm really keen to hear your experience. So what is your biggest advantages? What's your biggest frustrations? And this is a therapy session, so lay it all out for me.
Very well. I have worked in both original dot-coms and also for a long time now in larger businesses. And you have to really treat a big business like a startup, and you have to be very entrepreneurial within that business. Where I see people perhaps fail is they get a bit lost. And they might enjoy the structure of a big business, but they perhaps don't stand out and really take ownership of things. So I think really the opportunity is actually to treat a bigger business like a startup, and so that um, you build things, you demonstrate things, but you also have to build an incredible network around you. Again, I think there's parallels with smaller businesses. So you have to think about who the stakeholders are, just like you would, who are the investors? How do you build network with them? What are you delivering? Do you understand what your team does? Do you understand what you do? And really get into it. So I'd say really big perks are there are more resources. It never necessarily feels like you have a lot of resource in whatever team you have, but I would say we have more specialists. So I'm actually a jack of all trade. I can turn my hand to most things to a level, which is great now that I'm in a leadership position because I can have an empathy with different roles. However, I've built teams and surrounded myself with people that are specialists. And so I think in a bigger business, you're able to invest in those specialist roles, surround yourself by those experts, and empower them. Budgets can come and go, so the budgets can be bigger, but also they can be restrained. And you still have to achieve what you've set out to do. So you have to rationalize and again be very aware of where those budgets are going and the ROI around those. I would say, I'm slightly more risk averse, and so a big business does give you some of those comforts that that I like. Having worked in both, I just prefer being in that bigger business setup. So that's definitely a perk. But you're right, there are complexities.
And what are those complexities?
So just when you feel you'll have a good year, you'll deliver a big campaign, everyone's very, very excited, and then it shifts very, very quickly. And so you have to have your spidey sense out all the time to think what's changing, because it's always changing. And so we might buy something. That's a big business thing. Actually, it's a small business thing as well, because you might be bought, and so it works both ways. But it can be very disruptive for teams. It can be very exciting, but also very disruptive in terms of particularly marketing being such a technical role now, with our tech stack, with all the connectivity to sales, technology, and everything. So when you buy something, there's a lot of complexity in terms of the systems that we use, the platforms we use, the way we do things, the way we talk about leads, the way we talk about business in generally. And so that has to come together. You have to communicate, you have to form working groups, and you have to try and collaborate and move the business forwards. And sometimes people are reticent around those periods as well. So you have to kind of be very open to new ideas and just grabbing that and running with it. And then the politics that comes with that. And you've got to embrace the politics. And everyone, sorry, please.
No, it's all right. No, I love. It's really interesting, kind of what you're saying, because everything that you're kind of describing, it just makes me think it is just down to kind of like a personal sort of preference at the end of it, isn't it? Really, like, do you feel like you mentioned about being a little bit more sort of like risk averse, or do you prefer really just that you want to kind of specialize in something? But I mean, I'm like you, I'm a generalist as well. And I started off in a big company. And the thing that I really liked about starting off in this like really big company was just having that, breadth of kind of exposure to sort of like lots and lots of different things, like being able to sort of, dig into kind of a bit of content at one point, and then, being able to go and sort of like specialize in something else for a little bit. But it kind of gives you that sort of variety. Whereas I think when you are in a small company and you have the breadth, you're never really digging into anything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I think while I'm listening to you talk, I'm thinking about the challenge, perhaps in a smaller business or even a business unit. You are the top of that function. Are you also getting the nurturing that you need? Whereas in a bigger team, I'm part of a leadership team. I have a fantastic leadership team reporting into me, and they have their teams, and everybody has their different levels of knowledge. And so it's really exciting because you see new innovations come along, and then you're able to bring perhaps your domain experience, or share the parallels with things like lead gen we've talked about before, and then how that's become demand gen, and how these things have evolved over time with marketing. So I think that exposure to the network of different specialisms, whether it's in a smaller business, you probably are the CMO, the comms director, you are the digital demand director, you're also the paid media expert, you're the organic expert, you're covering every bit of content, you're covering every channel, whereas in a bigger business you end up having your specialisms, so that I'm, for instance, focused a lot on content, but there's lots of other teams we collaborate with because that content strategy feeds into different things. So I think it really does depend on what you enjoy, and if you can cope, and or what brings out the best in you in a team.
Thank you. I'd like to kind of talk about sort of the leadership aspect that you just mentioned there. So you've been a Morningstar for how long? Oh,
13 and a half years.
wow, a long time. But you didn't start off kind of in a leadership position there, did you?
I did, yes.
Oh, you
I
did.
joined, but not like middle management. So I joined as UK marketing director.
Oh, okay, okay.
I know kind of where you're going with this. I think when you work in a big business, it is easier to come in as a marketing director because you're already proven on the outside. So a business makes that investment to bring in somebody, I think at that time, gosh, I'm going to give away how old I am, about 13 years plus 15 years experience at that stage. And so I'd already managed teams, managed budgets, had a good network around me, but I was still, UK focused. There's many other layers above. Um, but yeah, back to your question, because it is, I have grown in that time. And so how do you grow? I just think you have to think about how you're going to stand out and how you're going to make an impact and own that. It's not for everyone, the pressure of owning the responsibility of having an impact.
Yeah.
Um, and I notice a lot of people like being in a team structure. They're not good with chaos. Realize I'm really good with chaos, and I like to create. I'm not saying my business is chaos at all, but
No, no,
I
oh,
like to
no.
come in and create the structures that are behind me, so that they're built for others to enjoy. So when I come into businesses, I'm almost like a consultant mentally and think, oh, that's really interesting. Why didn't they not do that? Well, they haven't got that role. And rather than feeling defeatist about it, I mean, in big businesses with big teams, you often think, oh, why haven't they got that? That's really weird. They don't do that. But rather than kind of taking that, actually demonstrating, if you do this, and rolling up your sleeves and showing them, and then, oh gosh, you didn't even know about that. And equally, back to your point before, so when I meet new teams, fresh ideas, new individuals, I think, oh gosh, I didn't even know about that. That is just amazing. So not to be full of pride either. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
literally have to learn all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. I love that. And don't be embarrassed about kind of saying the kind of being attracted to the chaos. I always say, like, I'm a bit like a magpie's attracted to shiny things. I'm attracted to broken things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Well,
not
I
that
think
everything's broken.
no, and I think I know with my career, and so hopefully this resonates with some of your listeners. You tend to start to realize the things that you enjoy, and I like big projects. The more the merrier. Something that really makes a massive impact, bigger budget, bigger pressure, but it really, it's better marketing. It's better, and in fact, not just marketing, like involve every function, involve internal comms, external comms, involve every part of the business. In fact, involve every employee so that everybody jumps on that campaign. That's really motivates me. Other people like to really focus on one specific bit, and we need those people, Lucy. I'm not pointing at you and saying you're like me, but I need those experts. They're great. They go so deep. They learn everything about that area, and I'm just in awe of them. And
Yeah.
so surround yourself by those
Yeah.
people.
That's one thing that I've learned actually, yeah, is kind of making, yeah, like if you don't want to be that specialized person, just surround yourself with people that know better. And yeah, I think it was one of my CEOs always said that. He said, as a CEO, he said, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I just want to surround myself with people that are cleverer than me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think given we're talking about marketing, but talking about highly technical businesses, whether it's finance or whether it's technology, you have a lot of people with high IQ, and I realized that my thing is EQ,
Mm,
and you need both. And it might be rolling out an incredible speaker, but they're not necessarily able to think about how they should network or speak at an event. They might be able to stand on stage, but they might not know how to navigate the room. And well, this is where I come in, because oh, you must speak to that person. Let's do this, let's do that. And you think, everyone has their skill set. And it's the same in the marketing team. I'm sure you find exactly the same. It's very technical now. So you've got your communicators, you've got your creatives, and then you've got your deep technology people, just like software developments. And so you've got your introverts, extroverts, I love it all. Surround yourself by the diversity that brings, yeah, it creates a rich experience for the team.
Forget the kind of the actual like title CMO for a minute, but just think more about the role and the kind of the just the leadership aspects of marketing. But this is all like really like interesting what you're saying, because I get asked all the time by kind of like middle managers, I suppose, what is that next step? Like how to become a CMO or go into that kind of next level of leadership? And everything that you're saying is just is perfect. It kind of completely, in my head, kind of defines what a marketing leader is. It's that next step into, I'm not an expert in marketing anymore. I don't need to be, but I need to be all of those things that you said. Would you sort of say that that's how you think as well?
Absolutely. I think there's a fear at that middle stage where someone has enjoyed their expertise, whether it's from events through to marketing automation, and they're like the experts in that bit. The next step is to empower other people to do that. A lot of people struggle with that because they like to be the expert, they like to be the go-to person for that. And as you scale a role, you actually stand behind people much more and give them the opportunity, and they might approach it in a different way, and that's okay. It's really not good for perfectionists in that respect. Yeah, I always say, in fact, it's a danger when you have like a perfectionist and perhaps taking all that energy and perhaps not ever being ready to launch something, or somebody that takes all the energy generally in a team if they're too extrovert. You have to get everyone to good. If everyone is good, wow, that's amazing. Versus perhaps star players that are going to pull other people down. So I think my taking that step back and being behind people and realizing you take a lot of joy from seeing other people succeed is really, really a good way to lead. And so then people in businesses, other leaders start to realize, oh, there we have a leader, because they're not. They're there for everyone else. They're lifting everyone else up. And so being a manager is a job. And yes, I'm a career marketer, but people don't take, in every function, don't take enough time to really spend time with their team. You have to meet direct reports every week individually. You have to meet your team every week, your direct reports, get them together, get your broader team together, get everyone communicating. That takes time. So, and listening and understanding. So, I really enjoy that as well. And I'm very much a general manager when it comes to marketing. It's not just about the marketing teams or ancillary functions. It's about, do sales understand what we're doing? Do product understand what we're doing? Are we having an impact? Do finance understand what we're doing? And really seeing that end-to-end piece. So coming at it as a leader, and so educating and being patient and simplifying what you're doing so you get investment.
Yeah, it's like kind of maintaining a car, isn't it? You have your kind of annual service and MOT, and you've got your kind of checks and things along the way. But if you just left the car and just thought that, okay, it's going to run great, it'll run fine for a couple of years maybe on its own, from scratch, once you've got it all kind of set up and built. But then it's going to start to kind of depreciate, isn't it? And
Yes.
without that kind of like maintenance all the time, it's a little bit like that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Never rest on your laurels. So you have to see every shift and change as an opportunity and lean in. New people start, introduce yourself, be curious about what the future is, how things are evolving, help people adapt, help people get comfortable with change, because that is, I think we're all going to see a lot of that this year. There's a lot of change, and there's always winners and there's losers. So and learning from it. I think the other thing, and this happens with everyone's career, there are moments where you have challenges. But it's how you come out of that. So it is what makes you. It's true what everyone says. It's not the easy bit where you're really succeeding. It's where you're hitting roadblocks and you're having challenges, and then you really get the grit and you learn to fight through and see how you grow from that.
Have you had a challenge? Have you had an example that you can give where you've kind of come out the other side and thought, yeah, this is I've had a learning from this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we had a new team built about 3 years ago, and I hadn't invested enough time in executive communication, as in my own board of directors. I hadn't spent the time investing in helping leadership understand what we were doing, which is so unlike me, to be honest. But I had done it at a regional level, and I think regional leaders at the time I headed international business understood, and we'd have a healthy debate, but there was a good rapport going there. So nothing malicious. It was just a really big learning opportunity. The change impacted some of my teams, impacted me, and it was because there wasn't an understanding of the breadth of what we did, which is my bad. I'm in marketing. I hadn't communicated about. So I that was a really big moment for me. It took me quite a long time to work out my strategy, and and I ended up just really making a list of key people that I needed to have a relationship, but not in a transactional way. Like, plan ahead, make sure you're communicating and learning, and what value can you bring to them. So I built on my relationships, and it has born opportunity. It has created opportunity since doing that. So I think somebody said to me that actually it's a classic female thing, um, that we think our work is going to demonstrate.
Hmm.
Yeah. There's a name for it. So people go, oh, she's doing great work. That team's doing
Yeah.
great work. Yeah, a little bit. Apparently it's only 15%.
15, really?
15%. The rest is all like the perception. So it's like what someone says when you're not in the room. That team. Have you seen what that team? So you really have to arm other people with your messages.
Yeah.
And take the time to do. There's no point in the marketing people hanging out with marketing people and really understanding each other really well if the other key players don't understand. So yeah, I that was a big learning for me.
I remember doing this. This kind of makes sense actually. It's just something's just clicked into place. But I remember doing this like management training years ago, and it said that when you're, obviously we were talking about praise and praising your team and making sure that you give good feedback. But they were saying that when you give feedback to your team, make sure that you're not praising them for the work that they've done, but for the effort that they've put into that work as well. Like that's the bigger thing. And that kind of that links, doesn't it, to that is actually that these people have put a huge amount of work and time and or effort, sorry, and into producing this particular thing, and it's not so much the output of it; it's actually more we want to praise them for what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. And you come across this in every business. It's also the way you've gone about doing that. So I really praise collaborative teams, collaborative individuals. There's always conflict somewhere. Not out and out war, but you can see tensions between teams. Really taking a minute to understand the pressures and drivers for behaviors. And so that's one of my my super skills. I kind of spend time listening, because I am just generally curious and learning, and I am. People are fascinating, just generally interested. Why is someone behaving that way? Why is that team behaving that way? What is the background? And just not again resting on laurels, just taking the time to think, okay, I'm gonna lean in there and see what's going on and see if I can get teams working.
Do you think like that's been really or turned you into kind of as a very successful leader? Do you think that is a kind of a must-have for leadership? Should all leaders be like that?
I again to I've worked for lots of very capable marketing leaders, all very different. So I think you just have to bring your own approach. What I have observed is some people will be very focused on their team, but they might have a mandate to do that at any one time. I really generally struggle working in a confined environment. I just have to leak out into into all the different areas, and so perhaps if everyone did that, there wouldn't be enough focus on a specific project.
Yeah.
Whereas, so you need your collaborators and you need your ruthlessly focused people. So, collaborators are also ruthlessly focused, but I get that. So it's a mixture. So I'd say you need all sorts of different leaders.
I love that. I love that. I think I've mentioned this on a previous podcast. My all-time favorite book, I only actually read a couple of years ago, and it's called Surrounded by Idiots. Don't know if you've read it, and it's the insights. What's it called? I can't. The red, yellow, green, blue people.
Yes.
And it's I mean I scream yellow. It's quite funny, but they it says in there that the whole point to that is that you need that mix of all of those different coloured sort of types of people within the leadership team. And it's so true what you're saying, actually. Yeah, you need the people that are focused. You need the ones that, like in my language, I say go rogue a little bit, like.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, just thinking about who's listening, I would say I'm naturally fairly rebellious. And you need the agitators,
Yeah.
but I'm very respectful.
Yeah.
So it's like a mixture of, not challenging all authority, but perhaps thinking, are we a little bit rigid there? Is there perhaps a different way of doing this? I do understand, like, we don't want everybody to agitate. Ironically, I love everyone doing what we need to do, so that's why I said it's so unfair.
We're so similar.
I know.
But the thing is, everyone gets a hug from me after.
Yeah,
So.
that's right. That's right.
You mentioned, I want to go back quickly, actually. You mentioned about that challenge of where the you were maybe not sort of communicating, or you learned about communicating kind of up. And sometimes actually I've seen it the other way round, where you've got the leadership that are kind of other leaders constantly on marketing with lots of ideas all the time, and how about we're doing this, how about we're doing this. And this is the thing about marketing, isn't it? Everybody in the business is a marketer. So how do you manage that when you've got all of those ideas coming in from all of these leaders that are obviously very strong personalities with very strong roles within the company that are pushing sort of the ideas onto marketing? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I'm a really good listener. So I also don't tend to react to challenges. I can absorb it for a minute. So that's lucky that I have that behavior, because yeah, we have all sorts of fascinating ideas. And I think one approach is great. I always like to receive an idea. Oh, that's really great. That's interesting. What are you trying to achieve? So they might be very specifically focused on a tactic, or they think it's a webinar, or they think it's an email, or they think it's an event. And I like to kind of keep, not to be disrespectful to anyone, because they don't necessarily, it's coming from the right place. And also, a lot of people say no too quickly. And I always think, again, this is a future ally. How can we see if this is the right thing? And sometimes it really, really isn't. And I'm not, I have had to have difficult conversations, but I like to prepare. Actually, not that often. So I would say we'll try and find a solution. We'll come to the right place. They might need to fill the sales pipeline for the quarter. They're under commercial pressure. They want to make sure they're out there. And so I will try and say, okay, so this is, let's say they want to do an event and they've given themselves a whole month from the beginning of the idea. I'm like, okay, so think about the audience, and not less like we haven't got capacity to do that. It's like a reaction that people have. This isn't something I expected. It wasn't in our plans. I will say, think about the audience. Are your target people going to be able to free up time in just a month? I mean, a webinar, absolutely, but not in person. If they're senior people, I think they need a bit more notice. So perhaps if we plan it 6 weeks out, or, ideally 8 weeks out, then we can make sure that we're, mindful of their time. So there's always okay, well, I hadn't really thought about that. Or next time, let's do something smaller. Next time, let's give ourselves more time for these reasons. So sometimes you just have to let things fail. and it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this is a big thing with me. Sometimes it's like know your battles, like with your kids, right? Like you
Yeah. Oh,
pick your
same.
battles.
Pick your battles.
Definitely.
Exactly. You can't fight every battle. You just have to let some of them wash over you. You think,
Yeah.
okay, it's all right. It's all right. We'll just maintain our course, but that's fine.
This is one of the things actually I think a big learning for me. You go into sort of businesses and suddenly, I mean, the thing that I always remember, it was a book that was like the first 100 days of a new role or something like
Yes. Yeah.
that.
I know the book.
And it says, everybody goes into a business thinking you've got to kind of like prove that you know everything and. But he said, like, you don't need to do that because the proof is that they've hired you. They've hired you for a reason. So, you don't have anything to prove per se. Your first like 30 days should be really just listening and kind of assessing and, kind of assessing the situation. There was a lady on a podcast that I had before, and I love it. It was Mariette actually from P-Pro, and she says ask them kind of like what is it that you're there to do? Are you there to kind of shake things up and change things from a marketing perspective, or are you there to keep kind of keep things ticking along, like if things are sort of deemed successful at the moment? But
Yes.
yeah, I think it's I can't remember where I was going with that now,
Yeah, no,
but
no, I was going to say, no, it's really resonating what you're saying. So I would say I always have a strategy when I start somewhere. Firstly, do your due diligence, and as you grow in your career, you learn to do your assessments. Like I worked in a crazy.com, the bubble purse, we all had to go. Then I wanted to be in a safer environment, and perhaps it wasn't the right company. So you start thinking, okay, not just like, oh, I desperately needed a job. I kind of what do I want to do? It's not just perhaps about me. Is it the right team environment? Can I create something here? And so I always have a strategy when I start somewhere new. And so I'd say I have a strategy when I start every year because I've been at the same company for a long time. But every year is a new year. Is thinking about what are the quick wins? What are those medium ones? Or what are the strategic areas? You have to demonstrate your value all the time. Yeah, full stop. So you have to communicate. So I'm a big fan of doing like roundup newsletters. It's good discipline to help people understand. Just get people understanding what you're doing. So every company I start in, I do take the time to learn, but you have to demonstrate some quick wins as well because they've invested in you.
I love
Yeah.
this, and this is kind of a great place to sort of finish off with a last question I've got. But like everything that you've said over this whole podcast, we've been talking like we did at the start. We said at the start about big companies and how to navigate big companies and how to navigate all the people and the leadership and the roles and everything that you said. And in my head, all the time, listening to your answers, I'm thinking, this is not just relevant for big companies. This is big companies, small companies, medium companies. Like there's nothing that you've said to me just shouts completely big company. So I just to finish off then for the listeners, if you were talking to a marketing leader, big company, small company, maybe a little bit sort of thinking about small companies if it relates, but like yeah, what would you say? Like, what's your kind of one piece of advice for them? Like, what is something that they could really learn from your experience?
You know, build a good network. Understand and rigorously focus on what you are going to achieve. Put it in a plan, socialize the plan, deliver, and then communicate about that all the time. So, bit like plumbers in their own houses, PR being very poor at communicating their wins, marketing terrible at communicating how well things are going or what we've been learning. Communicate. So that I think that everyone is a stakeholder, whether you're in a small business, startup environment, or in a large business. You can't treat it any other way. And obviously, I am now in a leadership position, but I am in a leadership position because I have treated my career like a startup in big businesses. So you just have to keep that energy.
I love it. I love what you just said about communicating what you're learning. That really, really resonated with me, because I think we always, all the time, are thinking if we're going to do like a communication, it's got to be, and here are my big wins this week or this month or whatever.
Actually,
This is
people hate
everything
that.
we
They
achieved.
do.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
do. They do hate that. I think it's kind of like how we're moving to goal, and yeah, remembering our part in the organization. But I think the learnings we learned that didn't work, and what we
yeah,
learned was this. It's really
yeah.
important. But
No, people
yeah,
like a bit of like I fucked up. There was
yes. I knew it was coming. I was waiting for this.
no, there was okay. I can do worse actually, just to add it up. There was a somebody that I worked with before, where she suggested that we have fuck up Fridays, which I absolutely love. Like, let's just get people talking about failing as well, because it is a thing, right? It's how we learn. If we don't fail, we never
Absolutely.
learn. So that's the big piece of advice. Then have a fuck up Friday.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you so much, Nicola. I think we could, I could pick your brains for hours. I absolutely love it. Please reach out to Nicola on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions. But thank you so much. That was a really, really good conversation.
Thanks for having me along. Take care, Lucy.
Bye.
Thank you.